On the sidelines of the conference, I had the pleasure of speaking with the UN Women Regional Director, East and Southern Africa region, Dr. Izedua Dereks Briggs, on a few focuses during the days of activism. Dr. Derek Briggs, thank you for speaking with us on Diplomatic Channel. Let's begin with your work as a UN Women's Regional Director and how that has impacted on your life personally.
It's been a bit challenging because of the issues we work on as gender equality, but it's also been fun. It's also been fun because we are able to make an impact. Sitting down as Regional Director for East and Southern Africa for UN Women, I cover about 21 countries of East and Southern Africa. And it's good to see diversity, but it's also good to see similarities. And it just brings to the fore that Africa is actually one village. So it's a platform that allows us to innovate, is a platform that allows us to bring the issues of women and girls on the agenda of policy and decision makers, and also support women in rural areas to actually have an impact on their lives. So it's really very rewarding, I would say.
At that times, you've had to push back on governments at trying to hide data that could be of help to women in the areas that you cover.
In fact, before we started in the last 4 years in UN Women, there was no data at all. But now we're beginning to get data, for example, pay gaps, where a girl and a boy graduated from same schools, graduated on the same day, employed on the same day, are paid differently. Of course, the boys paid higher than the girls. We now have data of women in rural areas and what they're contributing to the GDP, which usually is not captured. So yes, we not really push back, but dig deep and disseminate the data that we have.
You're in Nigeria now to continue awareness on female genital mutilation and child marriage. How do both issues interlap?
They have to do with gender norms and stereotypes. They have to do with our culture. They have to do with our tradition. And that's the basic interaction of both practices. Ending child marriage, why we are engaging in ending child marriage is because we feel, and I'm sure you do too, that a child at age 10 just needs to be a child. A child at age 10, 12 just need to play with their friends. They need to make up the foundation of their lives. Now, when you are pushing them into being women and bearing children, it's so strange, and we think this can't be culture. So we're doing this work in pursuance of the Africa Union campaign against child marriage, which was launched and extended now to 2021. And we have done consultations in East and Southern Africa, in Malawi last year. We've had consultations in North Africa, in Egypt, in the middle of November. Now it's the turn for West and Central Africa, which we are hosting in Nigeria. And the intention is to partner with traditional leaders and cultural leaders, because we know that they hold the realms of culture. So if gender norms and stereotypes are based within our culture, let's begin to have a discussion with those who are the custodians of culture and see how we can begin a dialogue so that it's them taking the decision to end the practice. We are not forcing anybody to end the practice. We're just saying, let's talk together and let's see why. If we don't do it, what happens? Our population is not going to disseminate because we don't marry people early.
And how difficult is it speaking to women in areas where this is being practiced when they tell you, oh, this is the culture, this is something that has been on for years, and this is a rite of passage for young girls to becoming women?
Let me start, Amarachi, by saying to you, using an analogy that I usually use. You know, we had baby dolls growing up and for our kids, and they're dressed. And you just find the doll moving, yeah? You don't know what's moving that doll. Under the dress, there's a key. So you wind the key and the doll moves. That key is men. The doll is women. So we might say the women are perpetrators, but the women are told what to do. So when the male leaders say, this is our culture, which woman in the rural area is going to challenge that? I know somebody who asked her mother at age 41, why did you circumcise me? Age 41, she had had 3 kids. And the mother says, it's culture. So, yes, it's tough talking to women because they have received this party line from men to say this is what must be done. So that's why we need both men and women in on this. There are certain customs where if you are not circumcised, you would not be able to get married. So we are saying, can those young men say, we don't care about circumcision, we would marry with or without?
Who is harder to convince then? Is it the women or the men?
I find the women harder to convince, unfortunately, just because of what I just said. So if the men can go back and revert and say to the women, you know what, we've stopped this, the women will align. The only issue is for some women who practice circumcision, it's a livelihood. So what alternatives to their livelihoods can we prefer so that they don't go underground and continue the practice?
The UN is using 16 days of activism to call attention to ending violence against women. There's been growing awareness of the dangers of violence against women and so on, while society is becoming more and more aware, even here in Nigeria. Do you have a message for religious bodies and how they are supposed to be part of this campaign?
We, as in the United Nations, yes, we do reach out to religious bodies. And the message is use the outreach because religious bodies have the outreach. I mean, on Sunday, every Christian goes somewhere. On Friday, every Muslim goes somewhere. And those religious leaders have a followership. So if we can get to them and get them to spread the message, to say that women's rights are indeed human rights, to say that women don't need to be battered, to say that women don't need to be sexually harassed before they get a promotion in the office or before they get any favors, they have to give sexual favors to bosses. If we can pass that message even through religious leaders, it will go a very, very long way. The theme for this year of 16 Days of Activism is Hear Me Too. You know, there's the Me Too movement where women are beginning to speak out. Unfortunately, it's not catching on as it's catching on in the West with us in the global South. And that's because the environment is not enabling enough. How do you call your boss to order and say he sexually harassed me? You'll be out of a job. So the environment is not enabling enough. But I know that young people are actually on social media calling out young men who are actually sexually harassing. So it's just to bring awareness and sensitization, and also to tell young girls that you don't need to offer such favors for you to advance in your career and utilize role models like you.
I want to get your opinion on something. Some men will say that, women are picking just a small aspect of their lives and blowing it up and making it seem like, they're really being marginalized and so on. What do you say to those people? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Maracha, I'll put that down to ignorance because gender inequality is the reason why we have the difference in pay gaps, is the reason why we have power and authority lording over women. It's the reason why women are sexually harassed before they get promotion. It's the reason why, gender equality is the basis for everything. It's the reason why you go to a hospital, a woman gives birth to a boy, they say, oh, full current. The woman gives birth to a girl, they say half current. So even from birth, that child is already told she's half current. Imagine that child growing up. So gender inequality is the basis of everything. So if people are saying it's a small part, it's the whole part. If we're able to reach equality, we won't be speaking, we'll be out of jobs, some of us.
Then how do abused women get help?
I think first and foremost, abused women need to be told that they are not victims. The perpetrators are the victims. They are not the ones who are wrong. The perpetrators are wrong. Because many times, women think they are beaten because they've done something wrong. If you've done something wrong, discuss it. If a wife has misbehaved, take her home. You married her from a family, so take her back to her family. Don't beat her up, and then she thinks, oh, because I'm not good enough, that's why I was beaten up. So first and foremost, women should know that it's wrong. It's not acceptable by any standards. Even within Nigeria, it's not acceptable. Our grandmothers were never beaten. It's a new thing. Yeah? So first and foremost, women should know that. That's number one. Number two, they should know that there is help. There are so many NGOs, and I know about Nigeria, who are doing phenomenal work for abused women. Phenomenal. Some of them even have shelters and homes. A lot of people, the UN agencies, are working with the security sector so that the police become friendly. They're even being trained on gender sensitive ways of policing. And they will be able to, when you go to the police, they don't tell you, how did you behave to your husband last night? That's why he beat you up. So we're beginning to make a lot of changes. And I think a lot has happened. So women should just reach out. There are helplines. For example, Lagos State, you were telling me before we started, the Lagos State has a system. So yes, even if you're calling from Abia, call into that system in Lagos State. They will direct you to somewhere that's close to you that you can get help. So help is there.
Dr. Derek Briggs, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you so much, Amarachi. It was nice having you.